Welcome to The Explainer. So, we're always told that setting these huge, ambitious goals is the secret to success. But what if that advice is actually kind of setting us up to fail? Today, we're going to deconstruct why traditional goal setting so often backfires, and we'll explore a powerful, science-backed alternative that focuses not on what you want to achieve, but on who you want to become. I mean, have you ever felt this? You set this massive goal, you're gonna lose 30 pounds, you're gonna write a novel, whatever it is. You start out on fire, totally motivated, but then you fall short. And that feeling, it's not just, oh, well, better luck next time. It's personal. It feels like a judgment on you. I mean, this is basically the gospel of modern achievement, right? From every business book to every motivational speaker, the message is the same. Aim high, get specific, and that's how you'll unlock your best self. It's the bedrock of how we're taught to succeed. But here's the thing. What if there's a serious dark side to that advice? So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start by unpacking this goal-setting paradox and the real psychological toll of failure. Then we'll get into how our goals get all tangled up with who we think we are. And finally, we'll get to the good stuff, a new way forward. We're talking identity over outcomes, proving it with small wins, and asking that big question, who do you really want to be? All right, so let's jump right in. The goal-setting paradox. Because right at the heart of all this common advice, there's a really, really big problem. So check this out. This quote is from Locke and Latham. These guys are literally the godfathers of modern goal-setting theory. And they say that to get the absolute most out of people, you should set a goal so hard that only 10% of them can actually hit it. Just let that sink in for a second. The system is designed, on purpose, for a 90% failure rate. It's all about pushing for that absolute peak performance from a tiny few, and, well, it doesn't really seem to care about what happens to everyone else. Which, leads to the obvious question that, for decades, nobody really seemed to ask. What about the other 90%? What happens to the 9 out of 10 people who are basically set up to fail from the get-go? What does that do to them? To their motivation, their confidence, their belief in themselves? Okay, so let's dig into the science here. Let's look at what that failure actually does to us psychologically, because it's not just about feeling a little bummed out. The damage is real, and it's something we can actually measure. So, researchers designed this brilliant experiment to figure this out. They gave a bunch of people an intelligence test with a really tough goal. But here's the genius part. The feedback they got, totally fake. It had zero to do with how they actually performed. This let the scientists see really clearly what the psychological impact of thinking you failed versus thinking you succeeded was. And the results? Whoa, they were crystal clear. The group that was told they failed, they saw a huge drop in their overall mood and feeling of well-being. Their self-esteem took a big hit, and their motivation just tanked. Meanwhile, the group told they succeeded felt better, and their self-esteem and motivation were just fine. It was this massive split based on nothing but a made-up results. And this chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? Look at that. The goal-attained group, their self-esteem is fine, maybe even a little better. But the goal-failed group, it's a nosedive. This isn't just in their heads, it's a measurable drop in how they value themselves after just one perceived failure. So why? Why does failing some random task feel so incredibly personal? Why does it feel less like I failed the task and more like I am a failure? Well, it all comes down to how our brains link goals to our identity. There's this thing called identity theory, and it basically says our self-esteem is kind of like a running tally of our successes versus our goals. So when we fail, it's not just a miss, it messes with our internal story about being a capable person. And that's why it stings so much. And then you can layer on top of that something called identity-based motivation. The idea here is pretty simple. We are wired to do things that feel like us. If you see yourself as a runner, you're going to feel more motivated to go for a run. It feels right. It feels consistent with who you are. Okay, so here's where it all comes together. This is the really crucial part. When we try something and it gets tough, how we interpret that difficulty all depends on our identity. If you think, yeah, this is for me, then the struggle is just part of the journey. But if you fail, or if it feels like something you're not supposed to be doing, your brain interprets that exact same struggle as proof. Proof that this isn't for people like me. See the shift? The failure stops being about the task and starts being about you. All right, enough with the problem. Let's talk about the solution. How do we fix this? It's not about just setting easier goals. It's about a complete mindset shift, from focusing on the outcome to focusing on identity. And author James Clear explains this beautifully. This quote just nails it. We spend so much time trying to change our behavior, hoping our beliefs will follow. But Clear says, nope, it's the other way around. You have to start believing new things about yourself first. You build the identity, and the habits will follow naturally. So think of it like an onion. On the outside, you have outcomes, the stuff you get, like losing weight. The next layer in is processes, the stuff you do, like your gym routine. But right there in the center, the core of it all, is your identity, what you truly believe about yourself. Most people try to change from the outside in, but the real, sticky, lasting change, that comes from the inside out.
Okay, let's look at this side by side. An outcome-based goal is, I want to write a book. It's all about that big, scary final product. An identity-based goal is, I want to be the type of person who writes every day. See the difference? One is a finite destination with a huge risk of failure. The other is a way of being, where every single day is a chance to win.
Okay, this sounds amazing, right? But how do you actually do it? I mean, you can't just flip a switch and believe you're a new person. So how do you actually build that new identity? Well, the answer is way simpler than you'd think. It really just comes down to two simple steps. 1, decide what type of person you want to be. Get specific. 2, prove it to yourself with small wins. That's it. Every small action is like casting a vote for that new identity. And look, this isn't just some self-help theory. Real people use this to make massive changes in their lives. Just take this example from a Reddit user who was trying to quit smoking. This person wrote, I don't want to smoke anymore became I am not a person who smokes, and here I am nicotine-free for 4 years. Just feel the power in that shift. One is about resisting, fighting, wanting. The other is just a statement of fact. It's who you are now. And that's the whole secret. You have to make those first votes for your new identity so tiny, so easy, that it's basically impossible to fail. You want to be a writer? Forget about being a best-selling author. Just become a person who writes every day. And your small win isn't a whole chapter, it's one paragraph. Every time you write that one paragraph, you're giving your brain a little piece of evidence that says, see, I am this person. You're building that identity one tiny brick at a time without risking that big psychological crash. All right, let's wrap this all up. We've seen how these big, outcome-focused goals can totally backfire, hurting our motivation and our self-esteem. But we've also found a much smarter, more sustainable way to think about change. This right here, this is the most important idea. At first, the goal isn't to get the result. The goal is to become the kind of person who can get those results. It's a total reframe. If you focus on building the identity, the results just kind of happen. They become a natural byproduct of who you've become. So, I want to leave you with this question. Forget about New Year's resolutions or 5-year plans for a second. What is one tiny, almost ridiculously small thing you can do today, right now? What's one small win you can use to cast a vote for the person you're becoming? Because that one little action and the one you take tomorrow, that's where it all begins.